Well, hello, old man Steve here, and I'm going to continue my summer stock stories. This is, as I said in my original summer stock video, I worked at Colony Summer Theater in Latham, New York, upstate New York, in Latham, outside of Albany, in the 1960s. And so some of the stars that performed were big names at that time. You young people may not even know who I'm talking about. That occurred to me when I started this. But anyway, you'll just have to Google them. I'm not going to spend my time explaining to you who they are and what they did, but they were all well known in movies and in theater. There was summer stock at that time there was a number of theaters up in New England and the Eastern Seaboard and Ohio and places like that. That was mostly where summer stock was back in that time. And there was a regular circuit, I guess, of the stars would travel from one theater to another. That's how I guess it was affordable to be able to book them. I don't know. I don't know that part of it. I worked in the box office, and how I got that job, I talked about that in my first video about summer stock. Check it out. But I was a novice. Had never been to New York. I was from Texas. I was young. I was having a blast. I learned a lot of stuff, experienced a lot of things. Today I'll talk about George Montgomery, I'm sorry. George Montgomery was married to Dinah Shore. He was an actor. I don't think a really big actor, but he was a name, and I think it was because he was married to Dinah Shore. But by the time he was doing this show, traveling, I think they had separated, and I think they were getting a divorce, as I remember it. But the thing was, the reason why the show sold was that people thought that she was going to show up because she was married to him. Now, nobody knew about their separation at that time. And so the rumors were, oh, Dinah Shore's probably going to be in the audience. So people came to see the show, not so much to see the show, but to see if Dinah Shore was going to be in the audience. And we were told to encourage that rumor, not to spread it, but just to say we don't know. People would call them, I don't know if Dinah Shore was going to be there that night. We don't know. So that sold tickets, believe it or not. But that was his, as far as I know, that was his claim to fame, was Dinah Shore. But it sold tickets. Well, of course, she never showed up because they were kaput. Another actor of sorts was Howard Duff. Howard Duff was married to a movie actress, Ida Lupino, but he was also well known in his own right. It wasn't like George Montgomery. But the thing about Howard Duff was that he drank. And they did, when the actors first got to the theater, they would do a run through or blocking, because a lot of the shows came from a proscenium theater, and we were theater in the round, and they had to re-block the show because there was a difference. And if you know theater, you know what I'm talking about. And so that may be the reason why they did this run through. It was the blocking because of where they had been before. Well, Howard Duff was drunk as a skunk, and there was a scene where there's a table and there's a phone, and the phone rings and he'd pick it up and start talking. Well, he kept picking up. I watched it. He kept picking up the phone before it even would ring, and they would have to redo it, and everybody was getting very frustrated, and then they were getting mad because they just quit the blocking with him and told him to go sleep it off because he was so drunk. And opening night, I think he was still drunk. He was late to the theater. They were panicking. Somebody had to go find him, and he was a mess. Anyway, that was Howard Duff. I don't want to speak ill of people, but I was there and I saw it. It's not a rumor. And then Carol Channing. Carol Channing was doing her one-woman show called Showgirl. And what I remember about Carol was that she was a very hard worker. She did the show at night, and in the daytime she came to the theater and was rehearsing a show that she was going to, from there, was going to go do on Broadway. I don't know if it was, I can't remember what the show was, but it was a different show than what she was doing at night. And she worked hard because I watched her. I mean, she was no nonsense. The other thing I remember about Carol is she was one of the first that required bottled water in her dressing room. That was in her contract. They had to get a bottled, one of those big bottles, you know, where you put the cup under, because she only did natural food, natural water. So no, I had never heard of that before, and at that time that was something that was unique, I think, having to have bottled water. It wasn't common like it is now. The other thing was, as I'd said before, there was a lot of restaurants in the area because we were on the highway going to Saratoga Springs, where the racetrack was. And so a lot of people would stop and eat in Latham before they got to Saratoga Springs. So there was a lot of really nice restaurants. And there was a steakhouse that everybody from the theater went to all the time. They gave us a special price, and we ate there practically all the time. So we had a little opening night party for Carol, and she was there with her husband and her son. He was, I don't know, he was a teenager, I think, or preteen, I don't remember. But she didn't eat meat, and she brought a little box that had all of her vitamin pills in it, and her, I think she ate a salad or something. I know she didn't eat meat, and it was a big deal, but they prepared a special meal just for her because she was very health conscious, which is, I guess, was a good thing for her. but those items were all interesting to me because I had never been around celebrities or stars. So that was just some of several experiences I had at the theater. The producer, the owner of the theater, Eddie Rich, he was a character, a real character. And his sister Hazel. Hazel came and she worked in the box office, and she smoked and always had a cigarette hanging from her mouth, and her eyes were always watering from the smoke coming up, and she always had ashes on her bosom. She was a mess, but she was the nicest person you would want to know. But she was really the one in charge, I think. Eddie was funny. He liked to tell stories, and he loved to gossip. Loved to gossip about anything and everybody, and especially the stars. So there was always a story or rumor or something, and he would call you into his office and say, and he did that to me a lot. I think he liked me because he was always telling me a story about something. I think more so than anybody else. But he was a nice man. I liked him a lot. And we became friends. Well, that's my summer stock story for today. I will have another one for you coming real soon. Okay? Bye.